So here we have the 3 blisters that Privateer Press was kind enough to send us. These are from the from the Warcaster Neo-Mechanika, and basically are review pieces for us to kind of look at and get into the details, so that you have a comfort level and understanding of when you support the Kickstarter or when you get into this game, the quality that you're going to be getting into it. So let's jump into these real quick. So set these up the side. Look at this one. So this appears to be a trooper model. Let's take a look. So we know they come with the existing bases, which is great because any of the, if you decide that you want to use secondhand bases, you can go to, Secret Weapon or Micro Arts or anything like that in order to get custom bases, and they'll still work. So this looks like it is. My guess is this. Yep. So this is the Marcher World leader, or probably lead unit, for the troop, or for the rifle unit. So this is a unit of 3 soldiers, gunners. I'm not sure how they're defined by the rules, but basically they are going to be your troop unit that you can have. And I'm calling it the leader merely because when I was looking at the pictures for the Kickstarter, there was only one of them with a knife. Everyone had this rifle, but only one of them had a knife. So pretty high quality detail, like that. So here's an interesting thing. It's not a scenario of like a shoulder joint or something like that you would expect. So in other game systems you pretty much get a shoulder contact. This is actually a chunk of its body. So you've got a huge connection point here in order to attach this to the model. That's a pretty significant chunk. That's pretty good, because that's going to help to deal with, the weight of the gun and its connection point. Since this is not a plastic model, this is a metal model, you get a pretty big connection point to get a lot of glue in there and make sure that it's connected. Now vice versa, it looks like because this is a smaller metal piece, you have a smaller connection point. So they're definitely in their design keeping the concept of connection point and how much you need to stay connected on a model with a metal model to keep it in balance. A little bit more detail on it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we've got one of the lead, or I'm going to call it the leader for better lack of the term, of the troop unit, the 3-man unit. So this would be something that you would activate, and then you could turn around and activate, a solo during one of yours. And this looks like speaking of solos, this looks like the solo for the Weaver solo, the spellcaster. So we've got, yeah, this is definitely the Weaver solo. Nice back. I like the designs in the cloak. More traditional ball and socket style. I'm assuming that's for, yeah, so that would be for this backpack with its little arc reactors on the back. And there's your socket. So it pretty much just goes in like that. So you won't have to attach the hand, it looks like. Pose of this model is different than the one I saw. Oh, look at that. So they've got a pretty big connector point. You'll see the kind of carve cut through and the line cut through. So they've got it's kind of like a ball and socket, but it's more of a bar. But again, giving that nice supporting point for the staff, for the arc staff. Wait a second. Is this? You know what? I just realized. So this super tiny head, I'm gonna have a hard time. This is the helmet, the one without the helmet. This is the Gen Con exclusive model, I think. Because the one in the Kickstarter has a helmet on its head that goes up top here. That's the helmetless one. So I think that's the one that you will receive if you're going to Gen Con. you'll be receiving this variant to the Weaver model. So this isn't the one that will come in the Kickstarter. This is the one they're basically giving out for free. Not Gen Con, Adepticon. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they had some at Gen Con as well. Interesting. Oh, that's cool. That's a happy little surprise. So yeah, that's the Adepticon exclusive Weaver model for the Marcher Worlds. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Progress Press. I didn't realize you were going to send that one. And then last, we've got the Warjack. So sharing the similar name to the warjacks that we have in War Machine and Hordes, or I guess specifically War Machine. We've got ourselves a nice large base. So which is interesting. So I wonder if all warjacks are going to be on the large base, because I remember Hungerford or maybe it was Oz mentioning that this was a Marcher World light jack. Matter of fact, I think the Kickstarter even said that they're light jack because their heavy jacks come in a separate wave. I think wave 4. That's one of the legs, left leg. So we've got the traditional ball and socket, which means here's the that's an arm. So here's the main body. Got a head socket and different pins, balls to go for the legs. So we're going to have traditional posing with the legs. I think just because of the positioning of the feet, you're not necessarily going to have too many action dynamic poses unless you're using some sort of piece of terrain or something like that. Some piece of terrain or something like that in order to give you a different pose. So that's a leg. We'll look at, where's the other leg? Yeah. So the other leg is a similar socket design, pretty much traditional to the others. Let's look at that body again real quick. So here's the back. Some flash and cleanup to do just to make sure that there's even joins. I think this is the arc reactor. This is where it stores the arcanescence. And then the head. Okay, so not too much of a huge departure from our pre-existing jack designs. So we've got shoulder and arm connection, and I would be willing to bet that this is in part because with a metal model, if you were to have the arm separate of the shoulder, that would put a lot of, when you put the weapons on, which would also be metal, that would put a lot of strain on this joint, and you would result in you having to potentially have breakpoints. By keeping it one piece, you have a higher potential because your breakpoint is going to be that reinforced ball and socket join on the top. Right there. So yeah, I like the design of it. I like the fact that it's got the socket piece, it's got a better join point, easier to connect to, as opposed to a weaker potential smaller bit where the arm is connecting to. We have the other arm. That's okay. So hold on, let's look at this one again. So this is the left arm in the picture. So I'm assuming this flat point right here is probably where the top gun goes. So let's look at the top gun real quick. So here's the gun that we see in the Kickstarter. Yep, see that connection point right there? That's pretty much just a flush point. So ideally, if you wanted to, this is going to be a point where you're either going to bore out or get a flat magnet so that you can have a magnetized shoulder piece. So that way you can hot swap out your weapons to your builds as you see fit. So here's a different gun. It's got the same box connector, so I'm assuming this also goes on the top. So this is a different gun to the longer rail rifle design of this Marcher Jack. We did not see this on the Kickstarter, so this is yet another option. So you've got basically two shoulder options on this Jack. Then we have piece. Oh, this is an arc reactor. So that I was wrong. This is not the arc reactor up top. It's probably just a stylistic design. This is probably going to be the reactor right here. The piece where the arcanescence, when the Warcaster sends the arcanescence to the warjack where it's kept. So we have, looks like 2 heads. These are super tiny, so I'm going to try my best not to get my fingers in the way. So 2 head options. It will be interesting to see where or how they work. I know that you can hot swap out your weapons for different options. So is the head a stylistic design, or is the head actually like a requirement similar to like in War Machine when a Centurion has a specific head versus another jack like a hammersmith or a hammerclad, ironclad. Let's try that one again. So here's a chainsaw for some melee action. And then we have 1, 2 others. Yeah, it looks like 2 other. So we have looks like a flamer, and then some sort of potentially shotgun or solid shell style weapon. So these would be underslung underneath the arms. So you have 3 options. My guess is it's going to be some sort of shoulder weapon, some sort of close combat weapon, and then probably one of these 2. But if you're feeling really spicy, maybe it's a shoulder weapon and just 2 guns, and not so much, so it becomes just more of a shooty platform. Or you go with a different top weapon. So this is kind of where the customizability goes into it. Maybe you go for this top weapon, and then you take the slug out and you do a flamer and a sword for maybe some sort of closer engagement piece. This is where the flexibility of the jack and why a lot of people are talking about magnetizing it. I don't think I'm going to magnetize these because I don't have magnets necessary, and I want to see what these look like together or assembled. So we're going to take all of these options. We will assemble them, we'll clean them up, we will remove any flashings or anything like that. And the next time you see them, they will be fully assembled. Alright, so give me a couple minutes, probably like an hour, just to clean these up and get them prepped and ready to go. And we will bring them back and I'll put them on a turnstile and we can look at them together.
So we have the final assembled models. I actually really enjoyed putting them together. So this one is what I would consider the leader of the Ranger fire team for the Marcher Worlds. I consider him the leader because the other 2, like I said, this one has a knife in his hand, the other ones don't. It's really my only reason for calling it the leader. But this is the 3-man Ranger fire team model that they sent to us, and the positions and the dynamic is amazing. The model went together smoothly. I was a little concerned about the knife arm just because it was so small in comparison to the join of the gun arm, but it went together really easy. You can tell they took into consideration the fact that this is an all-metal model and the distribution of the weight of the metal. They give a larger connection point for that gun piece versus the knife, which is a much smaller and lighter piece, doesn't need that much of a connector joint. Has a lot of detail on it, a lot of little things that you can pick out. So for the true artisan painter, there's plenty of things that are going to be picked out on this thing, from things on the bandolier to belt to weaves within the cloak. There's a lot of detail on this model, which, I mean, for its credit, metal models usually do come with a lot of detail to them. So next up we have the Coalition Weaver for the Marcher World. So this is the one that we put together, and this is the one, while I was doing the unboxing, that I realized is actually not the one you get in the Kickstarter. The one on the Kickstarter has a different helmet. The left hand, instead of being kind of up, is more to its side, and then the staff is more straight up. This is the Adepticon exclusive model. And I'd be willing to bet this is probably going to be accessible at Gen Con, if they have stock left over to it. But again, similar to the other one, recognition of the points of connection. So the backpack has a single ball and pin to it, which allows you to connect it to the back. And then you actually see that the cable off of the staff connects into the backpack as well. I didn't even notice that when I was doing the unboxes, and it wasn't until I did the assembly. So that staff has 2 connection points. One massive connection right at the shoulder piece where they've got that kind of carved metal connector, and then an inlet to it so that it kind of rests into that pretty heavily. And I felt like that was going to be enough, but the fact that it also connects to the backpack reinforces that weight distribution connection, so that the staff, even though it's sticking way out past the base, actually has the ability of supporting its own weight. The head was awesome, completely dynamically posed. I chose to put this one where she is, looking off to where maybe she's going to be casting her Cypher, her magic spell. Ideally you could have her, looking towards. You could have her slightly looking down, looking up. I mean, it's completely dynamic in its positioning of it. And I'm curious to see if when the Kickstarter one comes in, if that's going to also have the same thing with the helmeted gentleman or not. And last we have the one that I was most excited about, which was the Dusk Wolf. So this is their light chassis for their Marcher Worlds. This is not the heavy chassis, so this is the light. So it is on a large base, but is a light chassis. I did some site comparisons to other lights in War Machine, and they're comparable. If this is actually potentially slightly larger. I don't know if it was a positioning of the legs and all that, but it has the shoulders were slightly higher. I wasn't even measuring to the top gun. I was just checking out the shoulders. The assembly on this one was a little bit more trickier, if I'm going to be completely honest here. Obviously, the legs came in, so the legs had a ball and socket joined to them, and the connection point isn't a round ball, or isn't a round ball end. It's more ovular. So the legs pretty much only go in one position, that kind of tilt forward leaning position, and that's probably just in recognition of how the legs and the feet are. You're not going to get much dynamic out of it. Okay, I'm willing to accept that. The arms are connected at the shoulder, and it's completely tiltable. You can put the arms in any direction. I have I shouldn't say any direction. They can go tilted up or tilted down any direction. You can't go in and out or anything to that effect. So I have my left arm slightly up as if he's bringing up that solid slug round gun to shoot. And then I decided to go with the long rail gun on the top because it's big, and why would you not go with the biggest gun possible? But then instead of going for the close combat weapon, I said, you know what, we're just going to go all in on this gun concept, and I put the flamer on it. So he's pretty much just a gun platform. I have no idea what that's going to do in the game, but I'm looking at this as just something that's going to put down a hail of bullets and fire down table and do a lot of damage. I gave him the head that had the kind of 4 eye lenses on it, as opposed to the other head, which was more just a rounded face, so you have head options available too. But overall, I think the only thing I have concerns with is just the weight of it. It's all metal. Even the top gun is metal, and that made gluing kind of a pain. Like, I would probably recommend pinning some of these, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But that's really my only critique. And, who knows? Maybe they'll have resin models here in the future, or resin weaponry, or, due to use and magnetize. The future's an open opportunity for us for this game. All in all, I thought it was an awesome assembly. I really want to take the time to thank Privateer Press for sending us these preview models. I wanted to get them out there so that you have the comfort of knowing that when you go out and back to support the Kickstarter, which is fully funded. Matter of fact, not only is it fully funded, but with 10 days left, I think they're 3 times they're fully funded. So this is definitely a game that will be happening. I'm super excited to see it come out and get some more gameplay on it from Privateer Press. And I'd recommend you going and backing. Until then, thanks for watching.